Hello, good day, good midday, good lunchtime. Um, I've just been working on this drawing of a dog, my daily dog. I've been doing them now for, I think this is day 67 or something like that. Anyway, so a couple months I've been drawing on my iPad to teach myself how to use the damn thing. And I've stuck to drawing dogs. So today, actually, though, I was trying something. Let me just show you something. So this is this book. If you can doodle, you can paint. And I just got this book partly because I thought, let me just switch cameras here to show you. Yeah. So this book is it's about doodling, obviously. It's very doodly. And what I like about it, though, is it's not precious. It's really about just taking something and just kind of continuing to work on it. It's almost a mindless way, which I thought was kind of cool. But one of the things that just happened to strike me this morning as I was working on it was this technique here, where you do a drawing, and then, in this case, she's doing a drawing on wood with acrylic paint, and then she goes in and she's painting on top of it with acrylic on top of the line. And the reason that struck me was that when I was in Los Angeles, a couple weeks ago at Thanksgiving, and we went to LACMA, which is one of my favorite museums, and they had this big show on Mexican art, which normally wouldn't be something I was terribly interested in, but you know, it was there, we were there, so let me go and have a look at it. And one of the things that I was just inspired by a lot of different things there, but there was one particular part of a tiny painting, or tiny part of a painting, that let me show you what that was about. And here we go. So this painting this is just a detail of this painting, but it had a similar kind of idea from that doodle book I was just showing you, where basically it's like a dark line kind of drawing, and then the artist has gone in and painted on top of the black line with color. And so you see what it does to the line is it kind of like erodes it in different ways. That's interesting. So anyway, so that's what I've been kind of thinking about with this dog that I was just drawing, that I want to then go back in with color and kind of erode its line. So that was kind of fun, kind of an interesting little thing to think about this morning. So, but I'll get back to that after I'm done chatting with you. So, what I wanted to do today was really whatever it is you want to do. We're here on the eve of a launch of a new class. And it's a very different class than anything we've done before, because it's not about necessarily just making art, but it's about appreciating art, liking art, checking out art in museums. And, you know, that's new for us. And we weren't sure whether that was actually, if we were allowed to do that or not. Like, are we allowed to talk about art history and museums and great art, or are we just talking about, like, you know, the world of amateurism and everybody making art? But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we'll see whether that's legitimate or not, whether you guys think it is, whether you guys think it's something we should be talking about. But my thought behind it was just that, just like one of the kind of motivating impulses behind Sketchbook School is to make art making not scary, not intimidating, not seem like it's only for certain people. Similarly, it can seem that looking at art, appreciating art, can have a similar kind of barrier. I find it. I find that barrier sometimes. You know, I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to get out of art, or certain kinds of art, and I'm not quite sure, you know, I was never really trained on how to go to a museum. And is it something that one really needs to be trained at? What is art for? What are you supposed to get out of looking at it? Like, is it something you're supposed to look at in order to be a civilized, cultured, educated person? I don't know. So anyway, so this class is sort of about demystifying that. But what I was also hoping that we would do is, as a result of this class, just like we often share opinions and share the art that we're making, it would also be interesting to share our experiences in museums, to share great artists that we've found, to share insights we might have about art, and this class has seemed like a forum for doing that. And I really think that looking at art, is really a part of being an artist. It's not like we're not sort of sitting in our garrets, high up in our ivory towers, alone. We're surrounded by other artists, and the artists who I like the most were really influenced by the other art that they saw. Like I think about Van Gogh, painting his sort of muddy brown oils when he was out there before he came to Paris. He came to Paris, and suddenly he was surrounded by so many other great artists, and his work completely transformed because of that. So, and I think that that's true of so many artists. Like once you're in a community, you're surrounded by not only your contemporaries, but also the whole history of art. It has a liberating effect on you. And, being able to kind of dissect the art that you're looking at, not just to say, oh, I like that, which is part of it, but also to say, why is it I like it? And what is it that I like about that I can apply to what I do? And are there other artists who make stuff that has that element in it that I could look at to kind of go deeply? So anyway, so that's what I have been thinking about when it comes to this class, and I'm looking forward to it. So let me get to some of your points. So Karen just says, interesting that a book about art has no images. I've not read her book, but what was the reasoning behind that, and how did it translate to your video class? Well, that's a legitimate question. The book has no images because the book isn't really about specific art. It's not a primer on art history. It's not it's not about specific art. It's about the whole experience of art, the effect that art has on us when we look at it. She talks at some point about the actual physiological effect that art has, how it affects certain parts of your brain, how it affects your mood. And so there was really no need to reference a particular work of art because it's really more about the experience of looking at art, the experience of going to museums, the experience of looking at art in books, talking about art, who you should go and look at art with. And so there was no real need. I think she also wanted to keep the book short and simple and inexpensive, all of which it is. I mean, it's the kind of book you can sit down and read in an hour and get the main ideas. And so similarly, when it translates to the course, we want to sort of do that, but we want to show art. And we want to be in museums. And so that's kind of what we did to make it much more visually rich than just simply text on paper. And it took us a long time to figure that out, how to make that work. I think that we did a pretty good job of it to show, because now it allows Bridget to actually point to examples and, to show things that, are examples of the type of thinking that she's doing. So it's not necessarily that the art itself is, one has to reference one particular piece of art. It's more like she'll say, well, here's how to look at something. So I think that's helpful. Hi, Patricia. I'm glad that you are eating your lunch. I hope that you can hear me over the sound of your munching mandibles as you work your way through your sandwich. So let's see what else people have written here. Let me start at the beginning. Linda asked, do I draw something every day? I noticed your theme series right now is dogs. Do you like themes in series? How long do you stick with one theme in series? Yes, I am drawing just dogs now, and that has been my theme, as I said, for a couple months. When you have a theme, when you have a thing that you're working on, first of all, it's a practical thing. It eliminates one of the monkey's primary tools, which is to say, what are you going to draw? There's nothing I'm looking around here, there's nothing I can see in my kitchen that I haven't drawn a million times before. Forget it. And then sort of getting to an argument about what should the subject be, and is this the right example of that? And is this interesting? And what are you going to do with it? This eliminates all that. You go, nope, I'm drawing dogs. And some of you may know I spent a couple months drawing just my teacup, the same exact teacup, in the exact same place, with the exact same pen, partly to eliminate this kind of need to have a discussion about it with myself. So it's helpful to have that. But also what happens when you work on a theme is you start to see variations. And what I've been doing with my dogs is I've been trying to draw completely different dogs every day. So I'm drawing, different breeds with different personalities, doing different things, and also in different styles. I mean, and that's part of the exploration that I'm doing with the iPad, is to see what tools can I use, what techniques can I use, how can I really work my way through all, play all the changes, as it were, to sort of see all the different tools that it has, and to try and really break free of my preconceptions, because that's what my exercise with my iPad has been about, and I've been writing about that on my blog, how to break my preconceptions. And the preconceptions for the last couple decades has been, I'm a guy who draws with a pen in a book and uses watercolors, and now I just feel like challenging that, but ultimately with the goal of coming back to what I'm doing, coming back to my sketchbook and my pen, because I still believe mightily in that. But to come back a changed man, with new ideas, new techniques, new questions to explore. So that's what's really been helpful. How long do I stick with it? It depends. I mean, when I first did the first dog drawing, I numbered it 001. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I can do 10 of these, or 100 of these, or maybe even 1,000. I've left room on the odometer to get there. I don't know that I will, but it's definitely nice to have that kind of road stretching ahead of me, and to know that I can keep going until I'm no longer interested. But I think a lot of artists do that, where you explore one thing. Monet with his paintings of the cathedral and of the haystacks and the water lilies, and Cezanne with his bowls of fruit, and it's Francis Bacon with his sides of beef. There's all kinds of examples of that, where you just take a thing and just explore it. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Do you have favorite things to draw and things you don't like to draw? That's Amanda's question. And I like to draw things that are kind of beaten up in some way, things that reflect character. So I'd rather draw, an old shoe or an old person than something that's smooth and perfect. I draw cars fairly often, but I don't find them that interesting, particularly modern cars. But drawing old cars is really fun, because they have all kinds of bits on them. So I think things that are complicated are fun to draw. And recently I've been trying to draw from my imagination more, so to make things up. And, that's interesting. And that's part of things I've learned from sketchbook school classes, honestly, particularly imagining. The idea of, how do you take something that is real and representational and around you, and then apply your imagination to it, to take it into a new place and to explore it. And my dog series has been doing that for me too. So I'll see a dog in the park, like I saw this pug this morning, and I thought, I want to draw that kind of bulging eyes look that the pug has, and I want to do it in this simple line work, but then I also want to have some kind of crustiness around him, so little dots and wrinkles and all that kind of stuff, because that's what makes it interesting. So, drawing my teacup was only interesting because it has an elaborate pattern on it of cherries and leaves and flowers, so I would draw those from different angles with slightly different lighting on them, and that just made it interesting. Okay. Linda DeMario asks, what are the plans for Sketchbook School 2018? Well, they are many. This year was an interesting year. Kosha and I are going to probably make a video in the next week or two to kind of talk about this very question. What have we done this year, and what are we going to do next year? This year we introduced several new classes. I mean, this year was a big change for both of us, because we completely 100% focused on Sketchbook School. I didn't write any books this year. I didn't go on any speaking engagements this year. I didn't do any internships at schools like I'd done in the year before that. I just focused on this, and Kosha also, she didn't teach any of her other classes. She didn't do other illustration stuff. She just focused on this. So we tried to see what would happen if we did that, and if we could be as productive as possible and make as many things as we could. And we made, 6 or 7 classes this year. Next year we have at least that many planned. We are also working on, finally, for those of you who are interested, a conference. That is to say, we're all going to get together in a place, and we are going to spend some time together learning, doing stuff. And this is something that people have asked us for 4 years now since we began Sketchbook School, which is like, how do we take it from being a virtual thing to being an actual physical a place thing where we can all get together and have a beer and share our sketchbooks and learn some stuff and draw together and have some fun hanging out. And so that's what we are working on. It is a huge undertaking, as you can imagine, because we want to make it really, really great. We want to make it really interesting. We want to make it different, and we want to make it affordable so that people can come there. And we want it to be successful enough that we can do it again in future years. So that is something we are working on. We will release details of it pretty soon. We're almost nailed down a location. We have ideas for who's going to be there from our end, people who are going to be teaching there. We have some great ideas for other speakers and all the things that we're going to do. I can't wait. It's going to be really, really fun. So that's one thing. So in terms of courses, we have a bunch of new courses. Some of them are single teacher courses and some of them are multi-teacher courses. We're going to be doing a course which is going to be about how to get in depth with a project. I think that's something that we haven't been doing at Sketchbook School. Generally, we've been working on projects that last for a week at most. But then it's interesting to see how people continue with them. So we can give an assignment that you have a week to do, but then people want to continue working on it beyond that. And so we want to honor that. So we want to take a course where we all focus on a project. And it could be a big project. It could be like a giant drawing or a book or a product or something like that. And we work on it together over the course of several weeks. But what's really, really, really amazing about this particular class is not just that it's going to be a single assignment, but also that we're bringing in a whole group of people to help us do this. So we're going to have basically a virtual army of advisors, of people who are going to tell us how they approach these problems that we're going to encounter as we get deep into a project. So how do we make something and really make it great? And how do we explore ideas? And how do we work on technique? And how do we work with technology if it's necessary in order to finish the project? How do we work with typography? All these different elements that go into making something bigger and more elaborate. And this is a project I was working on it this morning. I realized that we first started working with the teacher who's going to be the kind of the star of it in early November of 2016. So it's over a year we've been working on this project, and it is almost done, and it is going to come out. It's going to begin in February. So I think February 18th, I think, might be the beginning of that. Before that, in January, we are going to do another version of a drawing a day for those people who want to get back to commitment and a creative habit and want to start doing, working on drawings every single day and need guidance and help and want to explore their drawings. Maybe have taken how to draw without talent or beginning, and now they want to just keep going and doing all kinds of things. And that was a class that we did. It was really successful last year with Veronica Lawler. And we've offered it on demand, but now we're going to offer it again as kind of a community course where we're all going to have that chance to work together on a daily basis over the course of January. So for those of you who are looking for a kickstart to the year, there'll be that, followed by this big project class I've talked about. Then we're going to be doing another class, which is going to be about really what is the art? What is sketchbook art? It's something that we sort of took for granted that people understood. The idea that drawing in a sketchbook can be an end in itself, that it can be a work of art itself. That sort of underpins a lot of what we do, but we never really have talked about that explicitly, and we haven't gone into what that really means and what are all the variations you can do. So this is a new class that is going to have just a zillion different ways of using your sketchbook, and we're going to show you techniques, we're going to show you ideas, we're going to show you lots of examples. And it's going to be kind of a short class that you can use as a reference that you can keep coming back to. And so that's another part of our plan for 2018. We also have a fantastic multi-teacher class, 5 teachers, which is going to come out in, I think it's in April. And that is really, it's going to be a really fun class. A different kind of class. It's going to be sort of about illustration, but about kind of simplifying things, creating things with character. I can't really go into that much detail yet, but we are on the verge of production on that, and I'll let you know more as that comes about. As the year unfolds, we have, I think, 3 or 4 other classes to follow that. So there's going to be a mixture of multiple teacher classes and sort of more focused ones, and then we're also dividing all of our classes into 3 categories, and you'll see that on our website starting probably in a week or so. We're dividing our classes into 3 groups. One of them is what we call foundation classes. Foundation classes are really the ones that kind of introduce you to a technique or an approach. So, for instance, how to draw without talent, or beginning, those kinds of classes that are sort of more foundation. And then we have what we call workshops. So things like let's make a map, or let's make greeting cards, or draw it like it's hot. Those kinds of classes where you spend a fair amount of time working kind of within a discipline. So less about foundations, less about the third category. The third category is 5 weeks, 5 teachers. So those are all the classes that we have offered in the past that have multiple teachers, every week a different teacher. So we now have kind of 3 categories of classes. And we're also going to start bringing back some classes that we haven't offered for a long time. And on a regular basis through the year, we're going to unleash those and make them available. So lots of different things going on, lots of different exciting developments, classes that are appropriate for all levels. So some that are for people who are just starting out and want to get more involved, some for people who want to advance their technique, for some people who want to really roll up their sleeves and get into making something more in depth. I think there's going to be something for everybody, I'm hoping. That's kind of our goal. And, and then sort of culminating in our conference, SketchCon. Mark your calendar. Well, you can't yet, but let me just say it will be later in the year. So that's kind of it. All right, let me see if while I've been jabbering, if you've had any other questions. So, Jim Dedrick, I believe I answered your question, right? You want to meet in Bentonville, Arkansas? Well, we're not going to be doing that. Although I'm sure it's a wonderful place. But we are going to, it sounds like a fantastic place, actually, as I read what you've written. But in Crystal Bridges Museum. Anyway, as it happens, what we're doing is also connected to a museum. A really great museum, too. So, yes, and yes. An opportunity to get together. We will all be there, and we will be, I think, having a really, really amazing experience. It'll be really fun. All right, Laurie, do you want to show my work in galleries? I'm getting a little hung up on titles. I went to school to be an illustrator, but now I'm showing my work in galleries as well as doing illustration. Am I a fine artist? Am I just an artist? Does it matter? You've come to the wrong guy for an answer to that question. I'm sure you're a very fine artist. I can't tell without looking at your work, but I don't know. What does a fine artist mean? Is that different from being a commercial artist? I guess a commercial artist is somebody who makes art based on what somebody else has asked them to make, right? Whereas a fine artist, I guess, is somebody who works on making art based on their own experience, their own point of view, their own view of the world, and without necessarily any outside influence. You know, I'm a guy who worked in advertising for a long time, so I am certainly, and I've hired many commercial artists, but I find that, since I've been working on, if I make art for a book that then sells in a store, a book that I wrote, a book that's Art Before Breakfast or something like that, am I a fine artist or a commercial artist? If I make art in my sketchbook and nobody ever sees it and it never is in a gallery except when I take it out to do a drawing of something I've seen in a gallery, am I a fine artist? I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not sure why it matters to you. I think that you should think about that. Why this sort of sense of hierarchy counts. I think that, the most important thing is being true to yourself, being authentic, learning about yourself in the process of making art. And, for me personally, I've been an illustrator, and I don't really like it. I don't do it very much anymore because I found I was not very good at taking direction from other people when it came to making art. So I found that the art that was rewarding for me was art that was just expressing who I am and what I feel about the world. And that's really what's changed my life. That's really what's made me a happier, better person. Better? Maybe not better, but happier. And more useful, perhaps, to the world. So I don't know if my art had been in a gallery would it make any difference. My friend Tommy Kane just had a gallery show. They put a bunch of his work in the gallery and sold it. It didn't change my opinion of him. I think he's awesome. His stuff just came out in the book. Does that make me feel any differently about him? Not really. I'll miss the paintings of his that used to hang in his apartment and then went to a gallery and sold and now hanging in somebody else's apartment, but I don't know. I don't know that it matters. I have friends who are at all parts of the art spectrum. I think what matters, though, in this whole discussion is just, why are you doing it? And what is your connection? I think we have this feeling that contemporary artists are somehow, representing or connected to other things that other contemporary artists are making, or somehow connected to the themes that exist in contemporary life. I don't know, honestly. I think it's sort of a shame when an artist makes a great piece of art, it goes to a gallery, some very wealthy person buys it, and either puts it in storage or hangs it in their apartment and nobody else gets to see it. That's not really that helpful to the world. It's nice when it goes into a museum and others can see it, for as long as it's in the museum and on display. I don't know. I think what's nice about the internet is it's allowed us to put our art out there and have it be there for as long as the server is functioning. I think that's nice. It's not quite the same as looking at the original piece of art, but anyway, I don't really think I have useful theories about that besides that, but I was told you already. Barrowese asks, how many sketchbook scholars are there? That's a good question for Morgan. I don't know. We've only just started to make the scholarship program kind of more formalized. We just used to just give it out to people when we thought it would be nice. But I think we're giving a handful each month, 3, 4, 5 each month. I don't know. It depends on how many applications we get, probably. But that's sort of the idea. Patricia asks, I find it difficult to draw when out with my spouse. He wants my attention. How do you balance attention to your friends, family, and enjoy a few free minutes to draw when out? That is a good question. I think this is particularly a concern when you're traveling, right? You go somewhere with a group of people, and you want to sit down and draw, and they want to go into the museum or to the cathedral, and you think, well, what am I going to do? I can't make them sit here and just wait for me while I'm drawing, and it just becomes a burden, really, right? And then you invariably decide that you're not going to draw, and you just kind of go along with it and feel regretful, or you take a quick picture with your phone, and then you go back to the hotel room and you draw then. I think it's a good idea to have a conversation with your husband about what making art means to you, so that he understands it, that he understands why this is something you need to do. I think it would be nice to encourage him maybe to draw with you, but that may not be practical. But I think you have to say to yourself, this is just something I need to do for me. This is something that's going to enhance my experience of this trip, perhaps, or where we're going. And I need to block out time for me. Just like, if you're a runner, you need to say, I go running for half an hour every day, or in Morgan's case, 24 hours at a time. But I think it's like many other things. It seems easy to walk away from. It's easy to say, okay, I won't do it now. But I think it really comes down to the value that it holds for you, and making people around you clear about that. And I think it's really important to resolve that, because I think if you sit down and you're drawing and you're feeling like, I got to rush through this, I got to get done with it because they're waiting for me over there, it's going to affect your drawing. It's going to neuter the experience that you're having. And it's important to focus on what you're doing and to enjoy the moment. So, I think that that's the core to it. What does it mean to you? And, can you make other people aware of it? It's important. It really is. And I think your husband should understand that. He should understand that that's key. And I think you can say to him, go off and do X until I'm done. And I think it's also a matter of mutual respect. I'm sure that there are things that he likes to do, and you acknowledge and respect those too. So if he wants to, to do some sort of gender-biased examples, if he wants to watch football or go fishing or, I don't know, whatever it is men do in workshops, make a table with a chainsaw or something, you respect that and let him do it and give him room. I think women are not as good at doing this as men, but I don't want to say anything that would be controversial, but I think that's the case. So, anyway, I think I've answered that, and if I go any further, I might get in trouble. Could you tell us when this conference might happen? It would be useful to help the faraway's of us to get organized. Okay, Glaucia, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the first week of November. It's going to be in a warm place, though. But that's when it's going to be. We will announce it, though, officially. This is not official, because we haven't resolved all the details. But that's kind of what we're shooting for. Late October, early November. Okay? How can we request a new instructor to be added? Well, you can send us an email. You can send us some examples. Tell us why you think the person's good. We're always looking for new instructors. You know the kind of instructors that Sketchbook School likes. So, that's helpful. But we have a gigantic list of people who we talk to, and it's our wish list. And so please send it to Danny at sketchbookschool.com or Kosha at sketchbookschool.com or Morgan, any one of us. Please do to let us know. Sounds good, Danny says. Drawing a portrait, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm not sure what Linda's asking about, but we've addressed drawing portraits multiple times. Kosha did a whole class on drawing selfies. We had Lapin drawing portraits. I think we've done a few of that. I think you will find, at least from my belief, that drawing a portrait isn't massively different from drawing a cup of tea. It involves a lot of the similar skills. But, I know a lot of people want us to focus on drawing people and to do that more intensively. And I think that that's something we talk about, think about. But again, it's not really squarely in what we do at Sketchbook School, honestly. And I think that there's a gazillion people out there who are teaching how to draw likenesses and how to measure, the distance between your eyes and how long your nose is and all that kind of stuff. That kind of technical thing, there's a lot of help already out there for that. So my suggestion would be, follow a lot of the other examples that we have, a lot of the other assignments that we give you to draw different kinds of things. And if you want to draw portraits, I would say do what I do. Like you see, I'm drawing these dogs. Just focus on giving yourself a series. I mean, Lynn Cohen's been doing a great job with that. Sketchy is fantastic, and that was another example. Vin Ganapathy in his class does portraits. So there's we've done portraits a lot. We've just never taught, portrait drawing 101, an introduction. So I hope that's helpful, Linda. I know it's a little snarky, and I apologize. That's the way I am. Okay, Morgan's answered a lot of my questions. An online gallery, yes. How many people are in my class, Barbara's wondering. Oh, that's good. Yes, you using the term correctly. I was not. Like, how many people signed up for greeting cards? How many people are there in our group? I don't off the top of my head know the total number. I think overall there's probably been, 50,000 people have probably taken classes at Sketchbook School. Some of them are overlapping. Some of them are the same people who have taken multiple classes. But I think that's generally the number. It's kind of overwhelming, isn't it? I think our Facebook group has, 20 or 30,000 people in it? But when you take a class at Sketchbook School, you will not be sitting in Yankee Stadium surrounded by 50,000 people. It'll be more like you're sitting in, a small symphony hall surrounded by anywhere from 300 to 2,000 people. Our on-demand classes are smaller. So if you go to an on-demand class right now, there may be just a handful of people around you. But if you sign up for a brand new class, you will be surrounded by potentially up to 2,000 people. I mean, I think how to draw that talent, I think we're just at the cusp of 3,000 people. So, it varies. We generally see numbers of about 1,500 people when we launch a new class, 1,500 to 2,000. So it's a lot. I hope that answer, I hope that a lot is good. I don't know. Look, I mean, I know that there's people who want us to offer much smaller classes, and we've wrestled with how to do that. Because the fact is, if we go out and we hire an amazing teacher, and we travel to where they're located, and we bring a film crew and we film them, and then we use editors to cut them, and then we hire, our support staff to support them, and we put them on our technology platform and we pay for that. Incrementally, each of those things costs us more money. And the problem becomes if we had a class with 100 people in it, we couldn't do any of those things. So when we have a big class with 1,500 or 2,000 people in it, and people complain about there being so much stuff in it, there's so many things in the gallery, there's so many conversations going on, I'm overwhelmed by it. We understand that, and we see it as both a good and a bad thing. On the face of it, it's a bad thing because you feel like you're lost in the fray, and you feel like it's difficult to have a coherent conversation, particularly when the technology doesn't cooperate. And frankly, it doesn't at times, and we've worked really hard over the course of the years to make it work better. And I think the most recent iteration with Discuss is helpful, but Teachable is continuing to work on making this even better. So I promise you, it will continue to get better so that the process of commenting is smoother. But we also feel like we want, where else can you have this experience of being surrounded by so many creative people? I mean, there's a synergistic power to it where people's ideas, bounce off each other and create new sparks that is kind of the core of what we're trying to do. And I think if you come in initially and you're sort of overwhelmed, my suggestion would be take some time. There's no rush to get through all this stuff. What we're trying to teach you is stuff that isn't just like a weekend's pastime. It's meant to be something you come back to, something that you sort of dip into and soak in. And so there's plenty of time to look at all the stuff that's out there. There's plenty of time to comment on as much as you want. You have lifetime access to it. And, that's really the idea behind all of this. I mean, that's why we, why we bring out more things, but not overwhelmingly more things, because we don't want you just kind of gulping them all down. We want you to take your time. We want you to take these ideas. We want you to apply them and then come back. I know we roll out these courses so that every week there's a different one, a different lesson, but you don't have to experience it that way. It's your choice. It's up to you to find what's most useful to you. I don't want you to be kind of overwhelmed and breathless and straining yourself to keep up with it. That's silly. But if we stretch it out more, we're afraid that we would lose the momentum and lose people. So we want to have a lot of energy, but we also want you to be able to manage it at your own time. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Barbara says, I think the TAs have helped with us. Okay. That's really gratifying to hear. We're so grateful to the teachers' assistants who give their time to come back and work in the courses that they've taken before and to participate. It's so great to have somebody who's experienced things before, sort of a prefect, an old boy, somebody coming back and saying, I know how this goes. And they do stuff that we couldn't possibly do. So that's really valuable. And I think, you're surrounded by all kinds of people, and this is an opportunity to meet them, and that's really great. So one of the best things was the live chats. I agree. Those webinars have been fantastic. In the old days, back in the dawn of Sketchbook School, we used to just, the people would pose questions for the teachers, and then the teacher would answer them, and we would post a PDF of what they'd said. But the opportunity to actually engage with a person, live like this, and to ask questions and to chat with other people is really, really fun. We love doing it. The teachers really like it. It's, I think, really clarifying. And I think it's great, by the way, to go and look, in the student union, to go back and look at the old ones we've done. I mean, because you can see all the ones we've done. They're there available to go back and watch, and just, if you like a teacher, or even if you don't know a teacher, go back and watch the conversations happening, because they give examples, they show demos. This is so much going on. It's really cool. All right, good. Wow, Katrina, that's interesting that you're surprised by that number. Yeah, I always worry. I mean, it's funny. We used to talk about this. I used to say, remember when I was in high school and the Rolling Stones came to New York to play, and a friend of mine thought that they were playing, before they played at Madison Square Garden, they were going to play at this little club that no longer exists on 6th Avenue, and he was sure that we could get in there and see them, and it was like very hush hush that they were going to be playing there, and the Stones were kind of famous for that. They would play these little gigs, but they're really, you'd ultimately go and see them in some giant stadium. And I always thought that's kind of the experience we're trying to give. Like, on the one hand, you want to go and see, Matthias Adolfsson, or you want to go and see Felix Scheinberger, so you kind of have to go to Madison Square Garden to see them. You have to go to a place which is, where a lot of people are going to see them too. So that's how we can kind of make it logistically happen. But we also want to have that kind of, acoustic set, small cafe version of seeing them too, where you can feel more intimate, you can feel more connected. We try to find artists that are the illustrated journaling equivalent of Mick Jagger. To whatever extent we succeed at that. But simultaneously, you get to chat with them if you want to, and so forth. So. All right, cool. Good. Well, guys, it is now 12:46, and my coffee is cold. I'm going to go back to working on that dog I was doing. So if there are no further questions, I do hope to see you in Happy starting on Monday. And if not there, I hope to see you in a Drawing a Day or the many other classes that we're going to be offering next year. It's a really fun time. I think Sketchbook School, from my experience, gets better and better. I hope that you feel that way too. And I hope that you will also encourage other people to come and join you. This is made more fun when people are doing it. I'll finish with one final thought. I just remember when we first began our Facebook group, and a lot of people felt like, well, they wrote to us and they said, can you please make the Facebook group a closed group? Because when I post my work there, I don't want anybody who I work with or anybody who I'm related to know about what I'm doing. And say, oh, what are you, an artist now? You think you can draw? And so we honor that. But it's kind of sad to me, And so I feel like if you've taken a class or two at Sketchbook School, I hope that you would go to that, boneheaded colleague of yours and say, hey, why don't you check out what I'm doing? Why don't you come join me? I think our motto is art for all, and we are all proselytizers. We can all go knocking door to door and say, hey, will you come and draw with me? And the world will be a nicer place, don't you think? I do. So anyway, thanks very much. See you in Yankee Stadium or in a small cafe nearby. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to whatever we're going to be doing next.